Next up, Adrienne Adams, a late addition to this very race, but with the backing of State Attorney General Letitia James, the City Council Speaker now pointing to her years on the council as the experience needed to take the city's top job. And great to have you here, part of the forum. Good to see you.
Thank you. Great to see you.
I want to talk about what's playing out in real time. And that is this past weekend, we saw the civil unrest in Los Angeles, right? And really, it's still ongoing as protests and immigration agents clashed over these migrant arrests. Here in New York City, ICE agents have been arresting those attending those appearing at these immigration court hearings, right? And it led to protesters trying to stop ICE from doing so, which then led the NYPD to arrest some members. So the question here for you is what is the NYPD's role, if at all, in protecting federal law enforcement as they undertake deportation actions?
Well, you know, there's a lot going on right here in the city right now. And what we have right now we have people not breaking the law. We have folks going into their mandated court appearances, Dan. This is unheard of. And then they're being arrested by ICE for something else. And then they're being relocated to unknown places. This is absurd. The time that we are living in right now is so upside down, it's not to be believed. Who would have ever thought that we would be in a place like this 3, 4, 5 years ago and seeing the dismantling of our democracy as we know it, the dismantling of our Constitution as we know it. I believe, though, that when it comes to NYPD, they follow the sanctuary laws that we are under here in New York City. However unfortunate it is these circumstances that this chaotic administration has brought us to in New York.
So should the NYPD, though, if there are protests taking place at the courthouse, right, should they step in?
If the protesting happens to be violent, NYPD knows what to do. If the protesters are following the law and they are protesting without violence, then they should be able to be allowed to exercise their right to protest.
What would you do if the president activated the New York National Guard, much like we're seeing take place now in California and Los Angeles, right? The governor and the mayor there had said that it's really causing chaos. What could you do, if anything, if you were mayor, if the president were to do that here?
You know, in taking a look at the situation that's going on in LA right now and just the total disrespect and disregard for the mayor and for the governor, I think is appalling. The situation is manufactured. It's not even real. So to deploy Marines, National Guard just for protesting, something that the LAPD has handled many, many times. Likewise, here in New York City, our NYPD has handled protests many, many times. If we were to see the National Guard brought into New York, I believe that as mayor, I would call on the president immediately to withdraw and stand down.
While that is playing out in real time as well, the other big topic here in New York City is what we're seeing, this rise of anti-Semitism, right, Speaker? According to the NYPD, 60% of the hate crimes in the first quarter of the year have targeted Jewish New Yorkers. So when you look at that, is the rise in anti-Semitism the result of what we're seeing play out in the pro-Palestinian anti-war protest movement? Do you attribute that to possibly the uptick?
You know, the uptick in anti-Semitism, Dan, unfortunately, has been rising year by year in New York City. We now lead the nation when it comes to anti-Semitism and crimes against Jewish people just for being who they are. So the situation, the war probably does have some to do with it as well. But unfortunately, New York City and our Jewish neighbors have been under attack for just being Jewish for years and years. And it's abhorrent, and we all have to continue to call it out.
Mayor Adams just changed the definition in his executive order of what the definition of anti-Semitism is. If you were mayor, would you uphold that executive order, or would you look to change it or get rid of it?
I don't know if I would look to get rid of it, but I do question some parts of it, as a whole lot of people have an issue with taking away freedom of speech. Some aspects of the document does do away with freedom of speech, and that is a concern of mine.
The mayor also just signed this declaration of intent to create a deal between New York City and Israel to launch this council to strengthen economic ties. He's saying it would help kind of small businesses within the Jewish community. Was it a good idea? Would you continue that council?
I probably would. I think that whatever we can do to strengthen, particularly now with the climate, the way that it's been pertaining to our Jewish neighbors, anything to enhance and to uplift the community, I believe, should be upheld.
Okay. And, Speaker, the other big issue here in New York is housing and the lack of affordable housing, right? And you've made the case that you've already unlocked housing as City Council Speaker, some 120,000 units. Right. You say as mayor, the city could move faster to build 500,000 new units. I guess when you look at it, could you have done more as the Speaker of the City Council to get to that 500,000 unit now? And why should someone believe you could do it as mayor?
As mayor, first of all, you hold the seat of power when you hold the position of mayor in the city of New York. So that stands by itself. As City Council Speaker, though, we've done unlocked unprecedented numbers of housing, and we've done it very well. We have seen the most pro-housing victory in a generation come through the New York City Council under my leadership. So along with unlocking the 120,000 units, we passed the City of Yes/City for All proposal to ensure 82,000 new units of affordable housing, and built within that a wall of protection that costs $5 billion that I ensured we'd get that also to handle infrastructure issues for neighborhoods like my own in Southeast Queens, where the infrastructure would have to be strengthened for any type of building up would take place. Also, expanding city FEPS vouchers to make sure that people could move out of shelter into permanent housing, making sure that there are provisions for NYCHA repairs, Mitchell-Lama repairs, and also making sure that homeowners that face displacement or foreclosure, because they need subsidies to build and make sure that their homes are still livable, that is built into this proposal as well. So we've done a lot. Yeah,
and on the topic of rent freezes, you say that you would freeze the rent for 1 year, right?
Yeah, I believe that, and it is still a thought in motion, because there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance for small homeowners like those that live in my own community in Queens that do need, rent to make sure they can pay their water bill, to make sure they can pay their mortgages. There has to be a balance between the two.
So you're for a 1 year rent freeze?
I'm for a temporary rent freeze.
Not even a full year?
Not a full year.
Okay. I want to talk about the subways and involuntary removals, right? Because people don't feel safe on the subway, and they're saying it's because of what they're seeing play out in the system. How aggressive would you be in removing people who are homeless from the subways, and where would they go?
Yeah. Involuntary committal is such a sensitive thing right now. People think that we can just take people up and just take them away, out of sight, out of mind. But these are people in serious mental health crisis. So if we are to remove people against their will, then there has to be a continuum of care provided to them. We can't just say, take your meds for 48 hours, because we know that's not the case. So there's going to have to be a continuum of care for involuntary committal, and I believe in using that only when folks present a harm to themselves or to others. But there has to be mental health services provided to folks in crisis. There has to be places for them to stay, and we've got them, for them to stay, and we just can't say remove them and just leave it at that.
I want to talk about politics overall and party politics, because a lot of what you would need as mayor has to come from funding either from the federal government or Albany. So I want to talk about Governor Hochul for a moment. Would you support her to have another term?
I would.
Yeah, you think you have a good relationship with her?
And I was about to say, we've got a good relationship, and I would support her.
And then it comes to the Trump administration, and a lot of folks looking at the Trump administration and whether or not being an antagonist would prevent them from setting federal dollars here, right? If you were to become mayor, how do you see the relationship playing out? Would you meet with the president within your first 100 days?
I believe that would be, and it is because no matter who is the next mayor, New York City is going to continue to have a target on our back. And I believe that is a necessity to meet with the Trump administration, to make the case for New Yorkers, at the same time protecting New Yorkers and letting the administration know emphatically that we are going to protect New York City and our sanctuary laws. This is who we are. I think that our cards need to be put on the table, and letting the administration know, in spite of the fact that it doesn't appear that this is still the land of your birth, Mr. President, New York is still the beacon for the rest of this nation. You need New York, and New York needs its federal government to be on its side as well.
So what is something right now, if at all, that the president is doing that you agree with, that you would work with him on?
Hard question, Dan. Very hard question. Something that the president is doing favorably right now, it's really, really hard to determine that. We're still dealing right now with the masquerade around what's happening in LA. Masquerading around is something else when our attention is being taken off of, the bill, the big ugly bill, as I call it, going on right now in Washington, D.C. So it's really hard for me to think of something positive.
Just in the past few days, we saw one of your opponents in this race endorse Andrew Cuomo, who is right now the front runner. Mr. Mamdani came out for you to get a boost in fundraising, right? And a former runner-up for mayor, Catherine Garcia, says, looking back, maybe she should have cross-endorsed, which was a new idea when she was running for mayor. It's a relatively new idea. So looking at that and seeing what's playing out, would you cross-endorse someone else? I'm
still considering all of the options available. I got into this race late, so I'm still taking my time. I have not peaked yet. So I'm continuing to gain momentum. The endorsements are coming now on a daily basis, it seems, which I'm really, really happy about that. So I'm not quite there yet to break any news yet as far as endorsements, cross-endorsements yet. So I'm still taking...
Early voting's in 4 days.
I understand that. Election day is the 24th.
Yeah. And so since Mr. Mamdani came out and said he would support you and give you this boost in fundraising, it's not reciprocal.
I'm taking a look at all of my options right now and have not decided one way or the other.
Okay. And you are one of the Working Family Party's slate of candidates. So the question is, if you don't win the Democratic primary, could we still see an Adrienne Adams on the ballot in November in terms of a Working Families Party column?
I haven't thought that far in advance yet. I'm still trying to get to this primary and win this primary, which is my every intention, and that's where all of my energy is right now.
All right, Speaker Adrienne Adams, I appreciate your time, giving everybody equal time. Good to have you.
Thank you, Dan.